Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we explored the human side of wealth, the purpose, courage, and meaning behind every financial decision. Uh, I am your host, Jamal, and today's guest is someone who is refining what it means to live a life of affluence. Joining me is Chantal McNeily, investment and wealth advisor at RBC Dominion Securities. With over 20 years of experience, Chantal has dedicated her career to helping clients, especially women, achieve their financial goals and live with confidence and purpose. She is a member of RBC Women Advisory Board, president and chair of Future Fund, and an activator for Corollas, all initiatives focused on empowering women in finance and leadership. Chantal, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so let's start with a basic question. You often talk about helping clients design a life of affluence. What does that really mean to you beyond just wealth?
Yeah, that's a great question because when I started thinking about how I was going to position that, I Googled the term affluence. And if you do that, a lot of images come up. And we can have some negative connotations to that word, right? It might be private jets or a lot of the images come up, they're very masculine. And to me, I always felt like that term, and if you look it up in the dictionary, means like flowing towards a stated goal or objective. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Japanese concept of ikigai, about finding your life's purpose, but the way I think about affluence is very similar to that. And if you can imagine three kind of circles intersecting in the middle, I call that bullseye your affluence circle. And to me, that's where it overlaps the intricate balance for you as an individual of where your health, your wealth, and yourself, which you could define as your mental health, your spiritual self, everything that defines who you are, intersect. And what I've noticed over my career is that if we focus too much on one of those areas, we're pulled, especially as women, out of alignment. And we feel it, but we don't know how to articulate what's wrong. So wealth is one component of that. But if we're only focusing on the wealth and sacrificing, our health or our self, our identity, that wealth does not deliver that same level of purpose and value.
Right, that's a very deep concept. So when you meet a new client, how do you help them uncover what truly matters before you even talk about investments?
I think it's about discovering the person, right? We are humans first, and the value of our net worth or our investable assets does not define who we are. We may fall into wealth in certain ways. We have certain beliefs around it. And so my job is understanding who is the human sitting in front of me first, regardless of the value of their portfolio. And what is the purpose? Like, how did they build this wealth? Why did they build this wealth? What does this wealth mean to them? Because at the end of the day, the money is just a tool. And so why are we focused on it? And what is the goal that we're intending to achieve from it?
Right. Okay. That's a strong message. And you have said it many times that playing it safe can actually be expensive. So what do people lose when they avoid taking financial risk? I mean, I'm doing a 9 to 5 job. I just have saving account. What would I lose if I don't take risk?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the greatest forces in the universe is compound interest, right? So sometimes people will say, I'm going to be conservative. I'm going to invest in a guaranteed type product. But maybe the rate of return they're achieving on that is not even keeping up with inflation, or the fact that our lifestyles are becoming more expensive, goods are becoming more expensive. So you feel like you're being safe, but your purchasing power is actually decreasing over time. And so I always align the concept of, I don't believe in necessarily risk tolerant, that people have a risk tolerant that is clearly defined by who they are, but I think about it as a time tolerance. What is my ability to accept risk, and how long do I have to recover from that risk? So a younger individual, a much longer time horizon, again, taking more risk in the market is not necessarily as risky for them because there's a lot of time for them to recover from any setbacks. Whereas an older client might have a higher risk tolerance, but not a lot of time tolerance. So we've got to look at, what is our capacity and ability to accept risk based on the goals we're trying to achieve, and bucket some of our savings goals based on how much time or when am I going to need to access that money.
Okay. Have you worked with someone who held back out of fear, and once they took that step, everything changed, their life changed based on the concept which you just described?
Yes, I do work with an individual, very successful and high income earner, but very conservative when it came to their investment portfolio for their entire investing career. And they amassed wealth, but it was based on pure savings and living within their means. And when they got to retirement, the fear set in that all of a sudden, this pot of money, I have no more income, needs to carry me through my entire life expectancy, which could be 30 years. And then they started to understand the concept that I can't just, make 3 or 4%. I need to grow my wealth, and I need to grow it in a measured way. So over a couple of years, we slowly got them comfortable accepting a little bit more risk. And as they were more comfortable, they saw, okay, the portfolio is growing, and just the income my portfolio is generating, let alone growth of the value of my investments, is enough for me to live on and sustain my income. And they started to see that value of things compounding. But it really took them a while to be comfortable accepting a little bit more risk. And now, again, they may still have a life expectancy of another 20 years. And so that money can rapidly compound. But it was a process where I really need to understand not only, the mental things that may be holding that individual back, and move them forward at a pace that was comfortable for them versus a pace that might be comfortable for somebody who perceives risk in a different manner.
Right. Okay. So, and why do you think so many women, even successful one, and I come across many successful female entrepreneurs, they want to be 100% sure before taking action with their money? Is it female psychology? Can you, share your thoughts?
Yeah. It relates to that same concept that a woman will not apply for a job unless she has 9 out of the 10 job criteria, right? So we feel like we need to be experts on everything before we take the first step. And we're more likely to want to take all of the courses before we put ourselves out there. I think it is conditioned fear of making a mistake or fear of failure. Women are taught from a young age not to take those risks. And so that fear of failure compounds as you get older, you become more fearful. And you feel that if you can control as much of the environment by having the knowledge, you are less likely to fail. When in reality, as you know, with entrepreneurs, the risk of failure is the same no matter how much we've learned about a topic, until we actually get into that environment, whether it's investing or launching a business. There are always going to be things we can't control. But I believe as a woman, it's an aspect of creating safety for ourselves in trying to control an environment that we don't feel comfortable entering.
All right. Then how can you tell the difference between being careful and being fearful? Maybe they're more careful.
So with women, I always say there is misconceptions in the industry that women are risk averse, and that is not the case. But women are more risk aware. So they will analyze a risk maybe more deeply than a male may analyze that same risk. They're going to look at all the permutations and combinations of that risk before they take a step forward. It doesn't mean that they're afraid of the risk. It means that they want to understand a multitude of outcomes before they proceed further. So making sure that you're kind of talking through, okay, here's the scenario. What's actually holding you back from this? Is it, a lot of times it is a confidence or an internal fear of failure, but understanding that it's not a risk aversion. You just have to ask a few questions deeper to say, what is that really coming from? What is the fear? And most times it's not a fear of loss. It's a fear of the unknown of taking that first step.
Right. And when you interact with women, what one exercise or question you give to them to help them move from hesitation to confidence?
So I learned this myself in my journey to build my own confidence, is especially for women, confidence is built by keeping small promises to yourself. And it might start slowly as, maybe you save $10,000 and you don't feel comfortable investing all of it. But if you invest that $500 first, you build that confidence and say, I'm okay to proceed to the next step. So it's not about how quickly you go, it's how you develop that ability to trust yourself along the journey. And the biggest thing I see, so I will work with the children of my clients that, are Gen Zs coming on board, men and women, same exposure to financial markets, but how the female will approach those conversations is very different. The male will most times say, okay, I trust you, you're the professional, here's my money, you should invest it. And the female will say, okay, I need to think about this. I need to talk to my mom, my dad, my friends. I need to research. I need to take an online course first. So I feel like I have the knowledge to understand what you're saying. So there's that internal not trusting yourself as much first, but then also building that trust with the financial professional that they do have your best interests at heart. And it's a mindset difference. They're both have the same level of knowledge, but that confidence piece to trust themselves to be able to just say, sure, let's move forward, is that tiny hesitation gap that usually will hold that woman back from investing earlier on in her life or at all.
Okay. Okay. So for someone listening right now who feels stuck or scared to start, what's one small thing they can do today to build that confidence and courage with money?
It's taking that first step. That's always the hardest, right? If you're going to run a marathon, for example, well, you can't actually run a marathon unless you put your running shoes on and step out the front door. And that might be the biggest mental hurdle. So the first step might be open an investing account and put a small amount of money into it. Build that confidence to see, the stakes are low. Do you make money? Do you lose money? And as you build that confidence, you can continue to increase the level of assets that you invest. But if you're always sitting on the sidelines, right? If you never put on those running shoes, you're not going to complete a marathon, even if it's your goal. And even if you read every single book about how to train for a marathon, you actually have the confidence to take the first step. So opening that account and testing out with a small amount of assets initially that doesn't feel scary for you, to potentially lose, and building that confidence over time that you actually know a lot more than you think you do.
Right. And here comes an interesting question. You often say invest to live richly and not just to get rich. This is a strange statement. So what does that look like in real life?
So money is just a tool. I have clients with, 7 or 8 figure portfolios where that tool might not be enriching their day-to-day life experience. And I have clients with a 6-figure portfolio who live the richest life. And again, it's understanding what is the purpose of that wealth. Why are you building it? We've heard that term, money doesn't buy happiness. It can buy creature comforts and luxuries to build the life you want. Right? So that doesn't mean luxuries in terms of things, but it might mean that you can start a business that is really something that's passionate to you. You can donate to local organizations and impact your community. You can send your children to school or give them the things maybe you didn't have when you were growing up. And that is, part of the goal, but without purpose aligned to it, the money itself doesn't necessarily have the same level of value.
All right. So I would like to hear one transformation story where someone's lives completely change after aligning their money with true purpose.
Well, I guess I could share mine because I would say I am one of the biggest transformations, and a lot of what I share is based on my own journey with money, my own journey with generating wealth for myself, but really then my step into the unknown to align that with a purpose that was much greater than myself. Yeah, and then
That was
share that with other clients and watch them experience the same transformations.
okay. Okay. So let's talk about you then. You're deeply involved with initiatives like Future Fund and Corellis, both focused on helping women invest and lead. What excites you most about how women are changing the future of wealth?
I think building new models. So for Corrales, for example, that is women from all over the globe that change the way we provide funding to women-led businesses.
Uh,
Instead of having to go to traditional banks or venture capitals, we all give, not with a charitable donation or a tax receipt, annually to provide interest-free loans to female business owners around the globe. So it's thinking about a new system that works. We all collectively vote on who we think is the entrepreneur that should have access to this funding, and that's how it is divided. With Future Fund, we are Canada's largest student-run not-for-profit that focuses on financial literacy for girls aged 16 to 25. And when I mentioned earlier, compound interest is the greatest force in the universe, that's where I believe that everyone, regardless of gender, but specifically focusing on young women, because there is that gender gap when it comes to investing, is if we can get young people investing earlier. Again, it doesn't take a lot of assets to generate large portfolios in the future, but if they wait, till they're 40 or so, when they feel like they have it all figured out, those numbers are quite a bit smaller. So I just ran a little number here. Like if you were 18 and you invested $500 a month at 8%, you're going to get to retirement with over $3.1 million. If it's at 10%, you're over $5.8 million. So that is, an amount that a lot of people can, it might be scraping early on in the days, but to invest in the markets. But if you wait till you're 40, those numbers are, in the hundreds of thousands versus the millions. So if I can get young women to start investing early, that can really change, anybody investing early, our greater economy, right? And what we can do with that wealth doesn't mean we're all spending it on personal consumption, but we can start businesses that support the economy. We can donate to charities or philanthropic organizations that align with our values. And it's just reframing the systems.
I wish I could have started investing early at the age of 18. The universities don't talk about financial literacy, but you're right. You're 100% right. Okay. So I would also like to get your thoughts on newer technologies like AI, and new digital tools based on AI are emerging. What are your thoughts around these tools? Do you think AI is going to change the landscape of investment?
I believe that AI is going to be another tool that we leverage. But when it comes to a role of a wealth manager, there is always a human component. So what I always say to my clients is, if we were mathematical equations, there is a mathematical right answer to every financial decision we will ever make. The challenge is we are not mathematical equations. We're humans. We're complex. We make decisions based on money that are aligned with our values, our upbringings, our emotions, things happening, in our personal lives. And it's not always an optimized financial decision because there are things happening to us every day that we can't control. It could be a health event, right? Where we need to deviate on our plan. And an AI tool can't understand emotion. And the biggest part of my role is separating, being that sober second thought between the client who has an emotion and wants to make a financial decision, and myself, who's not emotionally tied to their wealth and can give them the perspective in that moment and run, yes, the financial models to show them what's the optimal decision. But at the end of the day, we're going to make those decisions based on emotion. So an AI tool can help me, yes, analyze a stock much faster than I could as a human. It could help with asset allocation and overall, some of the things that we see within the investment landscape. But I believe that human connection will always be required because at the end of the day, an AI tool cannot understand the human component of wealth.
Right. Maybe after 20 years,
Yeah,
we will see
we'll see.
humanoid robots with emotions. Okay. So if you could leave our listeners with one important message about money, confidence, and purpose, what would it be?
I believe that true financial confidence comes not just from knowing the numbers, but from knowing the purpose. Like, what is the purpose of this wealth? And when your money serves your goals and your values, it becomes that tool for freedom, growth, and impact, not just security.
Right. Okay. That's very beautiful. So this has been an inspiring conversation for anyone who wants to learn more or connect with you. Where's the best place to find you online? And I know that you're very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn is usually the best place to find me. Definitely.
Right. Okay. So that was amazing. You have reminded us that money isn't just about numbers, it's about purpose, freedom, and the life we want to build. If there's one thing to remember, it is this: playing it safe might feel smart, but it can also hold you back. True wealth is about living with confidence and intention. Thank you, Chantal, for sharing your insight and inspiring us today.
Thanks so much.
And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to the Advisor Growth Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend or colleague who would find it valuable. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep guiding others towards freedom and purpose.